Hey everybody, it's Saturday, March 5th, and because it's the second Saturday from the last Saturday, which was the other Saturday when we did the last show, we're back doing another show. This is Crypto Connoisseurs, brought to you by BlockLeaders. My name is Kevin Mirko. I'm CEO at CoinMetro. It's an exchange and a bunch of other stuff, but we're not going to get into that because we don't have enough time. And with me is Jason Fernandez. I'm going to let Jason introduce himself. We're going to jump right in to today's topics. Go ahead, Jason.
Hi, folks. I'm Jason Fernandez, co-founder at Adlunim, which is a crypto launchpad. And happy to be here again with Kevin as every other Sunday, every other Saturday. And let's get started.
All right, two things to mention before we get started. We have two errors on the screen. We have a really cool new background. Thanks to whoever did this. I really have no idea who did it, but it was on my computer this morning, so amazing. Old CoinMetro logo somewhere over here, a little bit of nostalgia. And Jason actually doesn't work for BlockLeaders. We both contribute to BlockLeaders, but we'll fix that in 2 weeks. So here we go. So first talking point of the day, Bitcoin sliding under 39K, that's US dollars, leading some traders to forecast a weekend, or potentially an oversold bounce. So Jason, I'll let you start.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching it really closely. It seems like there's been some pretty wild swings. I mean, we've seen it go up 10%, then down 10%. And it seems like the closer the world inches toward World War III, the lower Bitcoin gets. I mean, it's expected. There was a time when Bitcoin was considered a safe haven asset and considered decoupled a bit from all these other financial assets that have existed, the rest of the financial system. But I think in recent times, it's pretty much been behaving like a tech stock, and so we see that happening in the price. But I think I think it should start moving up once. Because these factors are not specific to Bitcoin, like the global financial sort of gloom is not specific to Bitcoin. So I think that's going to start moving up as hopefully situation in the world starts improving. Like I was just mentioning the other day that so many of these of the crypto community is based out of places like Russia and Ukraine. So it's not surprising that we'd have such a huge impact.
I think we've seen some. I mean, Peter Schiff seems to be happy because gold went up $17. So he has a nice narrative on Twitter to say that once again gold is better than Bitcoin because it's at $1,926 or whatever it was. Which I always say this story, but I'll say it again. My grandfather told me about buying gold in the '80s at almost $900 an ounce. I bought gold 2005 at just around $230 an ounce. So yeah, wow. Gold. Anyway, so I think there's a lot of stuff in the news. Obviously, you have the whole Ukraine situation, the war. As you just said, Jason, there's a lot of inflow and outflow in the crypto market. Lots of buying and selling happening in Russia and in Ukraine. Given the fact that Ukraine is a tech-heavy country, there's lots of people involved in crypto that sit in Ukraine as well. And I would say, obviously, which we're probably going to talk about later in the show. We have governments around the world saying people should be blocked from using Bitcoin. And we'll get into that later. But I think all those things culminated with there definitely seems to me to be a bit of, I would say, manipulation around news right now in generally the crypto market in general, but definitely even more in Bitcoin than in Ethereum per se, as if we talk about the two heavy hitters in crypto. It seems to me that somebody's trading pretty heavily into news, or groups are trading heavily into news to catch people on the short end or on the long end, and simply eat up all that liquidity. We just seem to in the last couple of weeks we saw a big pattern. We saw a drop, quite a substantial drop, not for Bitcoin per se, but I think we saw a 10 to 12, almost a 15% correction, and then the next week, and we can't say that there was much better news. We still had a war. Somehow we saw quite a recovery, and now again towards the end of the week we see a drop. So I think there is a bit of maybe manipulation is too strong of a word, but definitely something tied to groups or large groups or trading around specific events, I think. All right, let's move on. I think we hit that topic on the head. We're going to talk about Bitcoin a lot today, I think. So, number 2 on our list here today: donations of crypto assets to Ukraine reaching 19 million. So there you go, Jason. Start us off.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is we've seen this before when in situations like in India during the COVID crisis when the entire crypto community came out, led by Sandeep Nawal of Polygon and a few other folks, basically got a whole bunch of money together and sent it to India. I think what ended up happening was I think at least Vitalik Buterin, who also donated some money. I think eventually a lot of those people ended up getting refunded. And the reason was because of sort of regulations in India around foreign donations, and that's can seem frustrating. And I totally get it, and it frustrates me also because obviously you want money to get to people that need it, and especially when you have this global financial system where people that want to fund these causes are able to do so. That you'd think that they should be allowed to do it, but it raises some interesting questions, right? Like, so for example, the particular hacker group, Anonymous, is offering some $50,000 per tank. First of all, I think that's a bargain. I mean, I like how much a tank's going for these days. Probably more than 50, anyways. So yeah, but anyways, they're offering this money, and it makes you wonder kind of how active a role can this play. So, for example, like how difficult would it be to quote unquote crowdfund Blackwater or XE's Academy to go in there and you could literally fund an army, a private army, solely with Bitcoin, and then so where do you draw the line? It starts becoming really gray, like as like what should be okay. I mean, clearly there's a problem with allowing like millions of people around the world to just put money in a dark pool that essentially goes to a private military contractor that funds a private war in a freaking foreign country. So it seems like there's might be a problem over there, but where do you draw the line? Interesting.
Yeah. There's a lot of perspective around this one because obviously people are feeling for everybody in Ukraine, and to be honest, most people in Russia as well, because I don't think they're behind this war at all. But definitely, people are feeling for the people in Ukraine. They want to help, but at the same time, imagine if it was North Korea asking for donations for their military to invade, or whatever. Obviously, it would be a much different perspective for most people on whether or not they would give money. So yeah, unfortunately, that's a really good kind of intro into, which is not a topic today, but just how kind of laws are created. When people sit down and try to create some new legislation, because yes, on one side, this is definitely helping Ukraine, and I think most people around the world would agree that that's probably a good thing. But you change the name of the country, and most people around the world may think it's a bad thing. So if they did create a law or legislation, it probably would stop something like this for exactly what you described, because you don't necessarily want people to easily be able to move money into the hands of guerrillas, or not that Ukraine are guerrillas, but they are basically fighting a guerrilla war to protect their own country in this case, not to invade another one. But anyway, they're up to 19 million. To be honest, when I first saw the tweets about the money being raised, I kind of thought it was a scam. Because out of nowhere we had the Ukraine government, and you obviously have this thing in the back of your head thinking, well, maybe Russia has, hacked into, Ukrainian government servers, and now they're just, trying to be assholes. So I don't know. Yeah. So I thought it was, and I think a lot of people did. I saw a lot of comments on Twitter, like, be careful. Yeah. Vitalik as well came out and was like, be careful. Don't send your money somewhere unless you know where you're sending it. But it's awesome to see that, this thing that we've all been, I don't know how long everybody been listening to this, or, I know Jason's been in the industry for years, but it's interesting to see the progression of this industry, in that not only are we much more mainstream than we were even a few years ago, but we're now the go-to method for charity, for like quick charity. Imagine if the Red Cross raised money for Ukraine, it would take them 9 months to get the money to Ukraine, and by the time it got there, it'd be 33 cents on the dollar. Yeah. And so that's pretty cool. One note I have here is, Ukraine actually urging major crypto exchanges to block addresses belonging to Russian users. That's a little bit misguided, I think. I bet you they got a decent percentage of that money from Russian users.
Well, I get where they, I get where they're coming from, but like, where again, it comes down to like, where do you draw the line? Today it's this. Tomorrow there'll be like a crazy terrorist attack, and again we got to freeze money, and then it's going to be like, oh well, these are drug dealers, we got to freeze their money too, and well, these are money launderers. So and all of a sudden you're like, hey, wait a second, what just happened here? Isn't this the whole point of this supposed to be, freedom?
Yeah. Not only that, that brings up a good point as well. My last point on this one is, money laundering is illegal. We honor that. But governments launder money all the time. Clear example: they take money from drug dealers, or they take money from whoever at a criminal court trial. Where do you think that money ends up? Where do they burn it?
Goes to government.
Yeah, it goes to government, and then sometimes to good programs to do good things. That, by definition, is money laundering. Anyway,
just a quick ad. When they started taking DNA samples from federal inmates, right? So they said, look, everybody, and there was a huge outcry. Everybody was like, no, are you mad? This is crazy. You can't just take our DNA. And then they said, oh, well, we're only doing it to violent felons. And everybody was like, oh, well, then that's cool. And then it was like, oh, well, I'm going to add rapists to that too. We're also going to add drug dealers to that. And then all of a sudden it's like, now we're doing it for everyone, and nobody complained. It's just a slippery slope.
Yeah. Plus, what happens when you're innocent? Regardless, right? I guess everybody likes to say they're innocent in jail. I saw Shawshank Redemption. I don't know if anybody else saw. But there are some innocent people in jail. That's for sure.
A lot.
Yeah. So 3 on our list today. Let's see. Help Ukraine scams appear as country seeks crypto donation, report reveals. I'm not sure where the report came from, but go right ahead, Jason. You kick us off on this one.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about this a bit earlier. I mean, I saw when I first saw that these guys are raising Bitcoin, I was just kind of like, wait, what? Really? Same as you. I again, thought it would probably be a scam. I mean, for COVID, I remember didn't the Indian Prime Minister's Twitter was hacked, and they put out a USDT address to send donations to, and so yeah, I just assumed it was. I recently saw a tweet out of one of the Ukrainian politicians, and he said that they had canceled the airdrop after much consideration, and that they had no plans to come out with a fungible token. And I'm just like, wait a second. So Ukraine is canceling its airdrop. just want to get it out there. And they're not releasing they've delayed their GGE as well, same as everybody else with the IDOs. They're like, we're not launching in this market, I mean, I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Again, it's hard to, when they're talking about all this cyber warfare and potential cyber attacks, and the fact that, obviously Russia's gearing up, the West is gearing up, NATO's gearing up, obviously Ukraine as well. Everything I see now, I automatically think it's fake until, I dig in a bit and try to figure out if there's some other source that can verify what I'm reading. And I saw the same thing about the cancellation and thought, well, maybe this is, what am I looking at? Is this accurate? Is this not accurate?
Why are they talking about airdrops, right? Like you think that Ukrainian government, we talk about different kinds of airdrops. Like, we airdrop food over here. No, we're going to do non-fungible tokens. Like, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but the thing is, it's almost, there's so many things that, we've seen in the last 2-3 years. I think that almost anybody, if you would have said any of these headlines, 4 years ago, people would have been like, come on, that's ridiculous. That must be from The Onion. That's nonsense. That can't be real. And, doing an NFT, non-fungible to raise money for guerrilla warfare kind of sounds like it could be legitimate. I mean, I don't know. The world is getting really weird really fast.
I mean, these private military contractors should just like freelance. If I ran a private military contractor, I would just put out a bunch of NFTs and say, hey, listen, buy this. We'll send a bunch of guys out there and fight this war. Let's do this. Let's go. Yeah. We don't need permission.
Plus, sign up the guerrilla warfare dudes, they probably have to be anonymous on their NFTs, I guess, because you don't really want to. I mean, if the guy became famous,
NFTs with their name and
yeah. No, I know, but I was thinking like baseball card kind of thing with the soldier. It's like Mr. Smith. It's just like his face would have to be blanked out, because obviously if he got famous and then shows up at your doorstep, you kind of know why he's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of would probably ruin the mission. So they'd have to be anonymous, but that'd be pretty cool. Okay, 4 on our list. We have Hacker Group Anonymous vows to disrupt the Russian internet. RT website becomes subject of massive DDoS attacks. So there you go. What do you think about that one,
Yeah.
Jason?
So I love Anonymous. I mean, Anonymous. I've been following Anonymous for a really long time. So they famously got started out of the 4chan networks. I don't know, if you heard about that. And essentially, the reason they got named that is because if you started writing on 4chan and you didn't have if you hadn't changed your name, it would just come up as anonymous. And then pretty soon, like a whole bunch of people were like writing notes to each other. And then somebody came up with the concept like, hey, maybe this is all the same guy. Maybe it's just like one guy having like massive amounts of conversation with himself, like he's schizophrenic or something. And so the next thing you know, the hacker collective Anonymous was born. And then again, you see, like they went after the Church of Scientology briefly, and I know they've gone after, I think, the Taliban and Al Qaeda. Some of these have been of questionable. Well, first of all, they're collective, so no one like you're not 100% sure who speaks for who, right? So some of these, like I believe they've also gone after Elon Musk with, again, very limited effect. So it remains to be seen, but what kind of effect will happen with Russia. But it seems like they have apparently had some success taking down Russia Today and a few other websites. But again, this goes back kind of a little bit to what we were saying earlier. I mean, it's just a cyber warfare version of that. I mean, you have the U.S. government that has obviously resources enough to wage cyber war, and they're making the strategic decision not to because they don't want to inflame a particular situation. And then you have a bunch of yahoos who are like, hey, wait a second, we're just going to do it. And they're essentially like free mercenaries. They're really like private military contractors. If you think about it from a perspective, they're just hackers, and they're just going off and running their own foreign policy.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Exactly. It's the crazy thing is that I think I remember maybe one or two headlines over the last 10 years, 15 years or so, that where at least one person got caught for being, but overall, you haven't really seen. I mean, in most of these types of groups, especially groups that would hack into government agencies, etc., those dudes usually get caught. And maybe they don't catch them all. Maybe there are other people that don't get caught, but usually you see headlines about these people getting snared in some type of dragnet or something.
Well, you don't hear about the ones that don't get caught.
Yeah, exactly. And Anonymous, you haven't really heard. I haven't heard a lot about somebody that maybe the Anonymous guys are really strong-willed, and when they get arrested, they never mention Anonymous. Maybe it's something like Fight Club. You never talk about Fight Club. I'm not really sure, but yeah, you make a good point in that they are a collective, but they can also act individually. So like when Elon Musk was attacked, it could have just been one random dude in Anonymous or two or whatever that just don't like Elon Musk. But the whole force of Anonymous wasn't involved in that attack. That's why it didn't really have much effect. Whereas these attacks in Russia, I assume, have much more power behind them because there's many more individuals in the group. Though I have to assume that a good percentage of anonymous hackers are probably Russian or of Russian descent. Yeah. I would imagine. I mean, when you think about even techs in general,
for that matter, ally.
Yeah, exactly. So there's actually probably another message here saying simply that again that the people of Russia don't necessarily agree with their leadership, which I think might be an underlying message here. Just have a note here. So Anonymous originated in 2003, so it's been around now almost 20 years, 19 years now, which is quite extraordinary. And yeah, they've attacked in Russia so far: Kremlin, Duma, Ministry of Defense, and then showing impacts on FSO as well. So anyway, so definitely a full-scale kind of cyber attack by a bunch of individuals. So yeah, exactly. They need NFTs. Anonymous need NFT. If Anonymous did an NFT raise, they'd raise a lot of money. I'm pretty sure.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, why not? And they already have all they have to do is put Anonymous on each one, each NFT. Nice
yeah.
All right, moving on to number 5. Number 5, this one might take more than the average 5 minutes. Let's see. So Hillary Clinton urges Biden administration to pressure crypto exchanges to block Russian users.
Yeah, I mean, so again, this is like one of those situations where sort of makes sense in the moment, but it's one of those slippery slope type situations. And I think that's most clearly illustrated by what the Kraken CEO put out recently, saying something to the effect of, if we're going to freeze accounts of country, and then we should maybe go after other people, something to that effect. And that's interesting. It goes back, you switch the names around, kind of what happens. one of the things that I guess it comes down to voting with your wallet, right? Like if you don't believe, if you don't like the stand that Kraken has taken, take your money elsewhere. Is basically what he's saying, right? Like he's not being. And again, it comes down. There will probably be ultimately two camps of people, just as they are. It's like the internet. When the internet first came out, it was like this. This plucky group of weird people, that were like really into this thing, and then now, and so it had a certain ethos. But as it became more mainstream, that ethos disappears. I think the same thing is going to happen with cryptocurrency. So you're going to have people come into this that are from a very libertarian, like degen view, and then a group of other people that are probably way more conservative and believe quite strongly in government control over even things something like crypto. I mean, the more mainstream you get, the more those views are going to start becoming more mainstream within crypto. Sort of what we consider anti libertarian views, at least as far as crypto is concerned.
Yeah, I think I have this quote here from Hillary where she was, quote unquote, disappointed to see that some of the so-called crypto exchanges, I don't even know what that means, but continuing, are refusing to end transactions with Russia for some philosophy or libertarianism or whatever. And I mean, obviously if she understood, I guess one of her interns didn't clue her in on the fact that the whole crypto movement kind of stemmed out of some form of libertarianism. Crypto, kind of anarchy when it comes to just the way that finance and generally the world is run, centralized, etc. However, for me, I own a crypto exchange. There is no law that tells me that I need to block all Russian citizens. In fact, I need to block sanctioned individuals. So I need to do what the law tells me to do, in that I need to check that these individuals that are using our business aren't sanctioned, they're not on the OFAC list, they're not on the FATF list, they haven't been convicted of a major financial crime, et cetera, et cetera. And we do that. And some of those people that would get blocked may be Russian. But going out and just blanketly, what did the Russian people do? The crazy thing here is that everybody, I would assume anybody with a brain understands that it's not the Russian people attacking Ukraine. It is the Russian government. And yes, there may be people that are sympathizers for the Russian government inside of Russia. I'm sure there are. But the crazy thing here is that what the West is trying to do, what the world is trying to do, is get people pissed off enough at their own country so that they affect a change. They affect a leadership change. But how is the West making laws to block the citizens going to piss people off at Russia? It's going to get pissed off at the West. Essentially, all they're doing is enabling even a broader, more Cold War. Well, it's kind of hot right now, at least in Ukraine, but a Cold War in general with the West. It's an absolute. I think that will blow up in their face pretty quickly. And I don't see any of these organizations, FATF, OFAC, or otherwise, doing a blanket sanction on Russia, because the Russian, in general, the Russian people have nothing to do with this conflict. There's only, I think. There was for many, many years only one blanket sanctioned country. That's North Korea.
So you have to wonder also what kind of control, like either people in North Korea or people in Russia, have to affect change.
Yeah,
I mean, these aren't democracies. I mean, they're not democracies in the traditional sense of the word.
Yeah, in any of the sense of the word, really. I think just reading some of these quotes and look, Kraken's. Look, I'm with Kraken. If there's a law that says we need to block all Russian accounts, unfortunately, as a regulated business, we need to block all accounts. However, when there isn't a law, crypto, it's different for banks. Many banks that we work with have already stopped taking money or sending money to Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, etc. And I kind of understand that, because it's much more difficult from the traditional banking side. Aside from just the sanction list, to understand the flow of funds between different institutions. But in crypto, it's a public ledger. I can see where the funds came from, where they're going, where they're headed, all that stuff. So it's much easier for me to make a decision whether or not I'm going to allow this transaction. So I think again, it's
packet trace and stuff, the chain analysis you can.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's Senator. I mean, Hillary Clinton said some pretty stupid things, but Senator Warren in the U.S., if you've seen her tweets. She's got to be one of the most clueless people about crypto, but she's the one who talks about it all the time. Yeah. I mean, she talks about crypto, I think, in her sleep. Of course, everything she says while she's sleeping is wrong, but she does it. But it's somebody needs to go to Washington and do a crypto class. I mean, Jason, we should roll up and put like a lemonade stand outside of the Capitol building that says learn about crypto.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure a lot of these politicians are probably cannier than we would think. They probably all have all their donations in Bitcoin in secret slush money wallets.
Yeah. In literally a hard wallet that's built into a server in Russia. Okay. Number 6 on the list. SEC. So we have about 5 minutes. Let's see how many topics we have. 3 topics left on our list this week. 2 topics. So we'll try to keep this one to 2.5 minutes. Let's see. SEC to crypto companies. There are benefits to self-reporting violations and working with us. So throw your mea culpa at the SEC, and we'll be nicer to you. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, this has a tinge of an FBI guy sitting down with the mob boss and going hey, if you tell us everything we're not going to help you out, but it might be okay. It might work out well for you. We're really we really tend to help people that help us. It's it sounds so, it's such a nebulous thing, right? I mean, if you're going to, first of all, if you're going to talk about again, they say I got a quote here from the SEC enforcer director saying we'll view their conduct more favorably if they come in, such as what the remedies would look like. That sounds so FBI mob department type, a quote from there. I mean, first of all, if you're going to do something, at least clarify what the rules are in the first place, right? Because you have all these things where we don't even know whether what we're doing is illegal or not, and they're like, come talk to us, and if it is illegal, we'll tell you. You'll probably still be in trouble, but maybe not as much in trouble. Clarify things. Put out Hester Pierce has actually tried to put out. I mean, I don't think they put out any sort of notification explaining where they stand exactly on the Howey test and how to apply that to crypto assets. And if they were to do that, then maybe come out with some sort of sandbox thing like Singapore has, where you have this sort of situation where as long as you tell us what you're doing from the get-go, we'll make sure you're not running afoul of the law. At least you won't get prosecuted for it.
Yeah. It's one thing, like you mentioned, if you're doing something illegal, well, then obviously you're not going to the SEC. I mean, it's like if you're a criminal and you're the worst criminal, like the mob example you gave, it's always the guy who's probably not the worst who goes and tattletales on everybody else, right? So if you're doing something criminal, you're probably not going to go anyway. And if you're kind of investigating before, then it makes perfect. I mean, if you go to the SEC before you have a business and say, this is my idea, and they go, oh, that's going to be illegal, then fine. But a lot of these cases are issues, for instance, BlockFi, Celsius. BlockFi just paid $100 million to settle charges. I don't think they think they're wrong. And to be honest, I don't think they're wrong. I don't think BlockFi is selling securities. I don't think there's anything security related to it at all. And the reason for that is the SEC hasn't classified any of those assets as securities. And paying rewards in the same context that you receive a deposit is not a security. But but BlockFi has the money; they paid just to move on. But in those cases where you're sure you have legal opinions that say you're not breaking the law, why would you go and tell the SEC, "Hey, I might be breaking the law"? It doesn't. It's literally the SEC saying, "We don't know what we're doing. Really, we don't get this yet. Why don't you come and tell us what you're doing so we can try and figure out if it's illegal or not?"
And if you want to talk with it.
Yeah, exactly. Please help us make some precedent to shut you down is basically look, I'm all about going to regulators. I like talking to regulators. This context here though is scary and not necessarily what I would like to hear as a person in the industry, to be honest. I'd much rather hear a different narrative about we want to help, we know that we can't stop this industry. We want to help to make sure people don't get, negatively affected by this industry. Help us help your client, help us help your clients, help us help you create a better financial ecosystem. I'd walk in the SEC tomorrow and have a chat with them if that was the case. But yeah, rat on your friends and help us shut you down is not really going to get me in the door. Number 7 on a list of 7. So here we go. Last one. We got 20 seconds, but I guess we're going to take a little more extra time. Women's interest in crypto grows, but education gap persists. Jason.
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, I think that there is an education gap with regard to crypto worldwide, and not just limited to any particular demographic, right? Like, is there really is crypto something that's understood by the majority of people? I would venture to say people that supposedly understand crypto don't understand crypto. Like I've advised many a company where the guys I'm speaking with are considered quote unquote experts, like where they're at, like they're the quote unquote, they're the blockchain guys, and then or the guys that people ask in their neighborhood, hey, tell us about crypto, and then when I'm talking to them, I'm like, holy heck, these guys don't know what they're talking about. And I'm like, and these are guys with titles, like they are CXO level titles at crypto companies, without any understanding of how tokens work, how token architecture works, how token utility works, how tokens move, and what gives tokens value for the, like they can't begin to tell you how many projects I've seen where they've got like essentially a programmer doing the tokenomics and the token utility, and he's a programmer, like, because they feel like, oh, that's the technical side, so a programmer must be the one that does it. But maybe there's a technical side that's like more business focused than literally programming. So anyway, so it's like, arguably, there's a gap in general. And it's great that women are getting more into this industry, and I think that's true for pretty much, even, one of the things about crypto is that it's like, it's international. People from all over the country, have all over the world, really have almost close to the same sort of opportunity to blow up a company, when that used to not be the case. Like if you grew up in Silicon Valley, you have a really good shot at. Whereas if you had the same company to someplace in Bombay, India, or something, you're never going to get anywhere. So, but now that's sort of leveled that playing field, and that's also leveled that playing field from the gender area, right? Like, so nobody really cares whether whether you're a man or a woman. Nobody cares, and that of course translates to people on down. My co-founder Nadia, most of the people that add Lunam, something like 70-80%, are women, and that's just because of the kind of company that you build, I guess.
Yeah. We at CoinMetro as well. I think the breakdown right now has to be, it's over 50% are women inside the company, and we have about 70 employees at this point, or getting close to that. And so, I think there is a bit. I think sometimes, crypto is kind of, math and tech combined. And when you look at industries that generally focus on math and tech, historically, there's been a gap between men and women. That doesn't mean that women can't do math and aren't good at tech. I think sometimes women are, even though they are good at math and tech, they kind of feel like it's a dude's world, and they focus on other things. Maybe they go into medicine, which is also tech and math, but it's just not considered necessarily a tech and math industry. So at least from a high level. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, I think that the education gap is across every demographic you can possibly imagine. And that happens with any nuanced industry, anything new, because when it's new, you get a lot of charlatans, right? You get a lot of people that don't know because nobody knows what they're talking about. So the one guy in the room that can put two words together about whatever this industry is sounds like he knows what he's talking about. So, 10 years ago, crypto, you go to a crypto meetup, there'd be a dude that get on stage and just go, Bitcoin, bro. And literally everybody out and like looking at the stage would be like, this guy knows what he's talking about. The guy that I'm going to ask when to buy some Bitcoin. And obviously, as the industry has grown, we've now started to have our, I used to talk all the time about the wrong guy on the soapbox, right? We had all these crazy people getting all this time to speak, on social media, but also in actual media, that just were the wrong people to be speaking for the industry. And slowly but surely, we're starting to get the right people. We even have people like Hester Pierce, for example, speaking for the industry, really from a position of power. That's definitely helped this industry grow and mature. But it's interesting to see, because women in crypto is a great thing, and we're actually starting to get some women in crypto, because 4 years ago, you literally, when they did like a woman in crypto or a women in blockchain event, it was the same 10 women every time, right? And now it's not. Now there's new faces all the time, and that's amazing. That's good for the industry. in general. So I'm
And,
happy.
and while we're on that topic, we should definitely shout out to Leah Halpern and Jessica Walker, both become quite huge crypto influencers in their own right, and obviously are women. So
Yeah, exactly. And they're the ones that brought us together in the beginning on Block Lives TV. So good, big shout out to them. Anyway, we're at 35 minutes. So we went a bit over, but I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks to Deep Philippe for some comments that he threw out while we were chatting. And BlockLeaders as well, following along to make sure we don't say anything so bad they need to censor us. So that's good. And see you guys here in 2 weeks from now? Not next Saturday, but the Saturday after for some more crypto news. Yeah. Thank you.
all right, you have a great day, guys.